What's up, everybody? Latest episode of The Rundown. Kyle Stackpole, editor of WashingtonFootball.com. Here with me, as always, staff writer Zach Selby. Zach, it's only been a couple days since that Steelers win, but I don't know. I'm still pumped up. How you feeling?
And I don't know about you, but I guess you're still feeling pretty pumped up. But honestly, I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic to get this first 3-game win streak in 2018. And I keep saying that 5 and 7 never felt so good. And hopefully we're going to make it 6 and 7 because we're traveling over to Arizona, of all places, to play the San Francisco 49ers because of COVID protocols in San Francisco Bay Area. But I don't know, man. I think we got a good shot, honestly. I think there's going to be a good chance. Not to give everything else away for the rest of the show, but I'll just say I feel pretty confidently going into this game.
For sure. We got a great show for you on tap, but first I'm going to handle the introductory plugs, not trying to steal Zach's thunder at the end.
Whoa, now.
So just intro. So official podcast, Washington Football Team. You can listen wherever you get your podcast. You can also watch this on YouTube. So, listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher. You can watch on the website, you can listen on the website and the app. Sorry, you can't watch. Only on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And you can follow on Twitter, because Zach only uses the Twitters. Kyle at Stackpole, Zach at Zach D. Selby. We got a great show for you today. We're going to start off, like we always do, with the Pulse. Then we're going to move into an interview with San Francisco 49ers senior team reporter Keiana Martin, who gives us everything you need to know ahead of Sunday's matchup. And then we're going to go into Studs and Duds from Stevie Stats. She's got a couple good ones for us this week, I'm sure. And then we'll move in.
For her?
Yeah, it kind of just rolls. It just rolls off the tongue. And then we got who we got. Obviously, you guys know. You've been talking about it all week, and it's finally here. So let's get started. Let's get started with the Pulse. We have a couple of really good questions. This one is, I'm sure, what people really want to know about because it's about playoffs. A couple of weeks ago, I was saying the P word. We were just floating it around in the Washington Football Teamosphere. We weren't saying it. And now, not only are they tied with the Giants for first, but they're a game out of the 7th wild card spot. So 4 games left. Seems like a lot of winnable games. We have 49ers, Seahawks, Panthers, Eagles. Zach, what does this team need to do, either record-wise or just statistically, to get to the postseason for the first time since 2015?
It's really funny that I think when a few weeks ago we were all that Colts coach back in the day. I was like, playoffs. We're just trying to win another game. But now I think we're right in the thick of it. And I think what they need to do, honestly, is just control what they can control. I'm gonna use the old Ron Rivera standbys here. Is that we got to focus on what's important opposed to what's interesting. And there's a lot of interesting things going on in the NFC East right now. The Giants are doing well. You can't count out the Eagles, even though they've kind of been a little bit of a struggling point there. And then also, I don't know if you really want to talk about the team in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but we're just going to mention them, not really talk about them all that much.
I think they're done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but who knows? Who knows, honestly? But I think at the end of the day, after winning that Steelers game, if they're coming along, all 4 of these remaining games, in my opinion, are winnable. And I know it's crazy to say because a couple weeks ago you didn't know, but I think if they could just control what they can control, worry about 1 week at a time, 49ers up next, they have just as much a shot as anybody to win the NFC East and maybe even make that 7 seed as well.
Definitely. And I'm just going to go with, you said it, a lot of winnable games. I'm going to go with 2 things that they need to do and something that they definitely can do defensively to make the playoffs. The first is get after the quarterback, which they've been doing all year. Didn't get to Big Ben, but did, break up a bunch of passes, bat down a bunch of passes. And these quarterbacks aren't your Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray.
Talking about Russell Wilson is, but
Russell Wilson. Okay, you're right. 1 out of 4. So we have darn. Now you just messed me up. So we got Nick Mullins, who he's not a mobile quarterback. Russell Wilson, who while he came out hot, they let Russ cook, and now he's not doing as well. Then you have Teddy Bridgewater, not the most mobile guy, and then you have whoever Philly's going to throw out there, Carson Wentz, turnover machine, or Jalen Hurts in potentially his 5th career start or something, or 4th career start. So they got to be able to get after the quarterback, and I think they're going to be able to. I think that some of the best quarterbacks they've played aside from Russ are over with, and they're going to have a lot of success. The second thing has to do with turnovers. So in Nick Mullins' 6 starts this season, he's got 10 turnovers, 8 INTs, 2 fumbles lost. You go to Russell Wilson. I think he might be one of the most turnover-prone guys the last couple weeks. So ever since he's been slipping and sliding a little bit, it's because of the turnovers. Washington needs to take advantage of that. Carolina, not really sure where they are in turnovers, but the Eagles, we know Carson Wentz, like I said, turnover machine. And Ron Rivera has preached about it all year long. If they can win the turnover battle, they're going to win these games. And in the games they've won, they've been able to win the turnover battle. So I think that's going to be huge. If they can get after the quarterback and cause some turnovers, which go hand in hand, why can't they win 3 out of the 4? Why can't they go 4-0? So
yeah. True. Very, very true. I agree with that completely, man. Let's go on to the next one here. So Antonio Gibson left the game in the first quarter against the Steelers. We don't know what his status is going to be yet. We're probably going to get more about that later on today, on Thursday. But say Antonio Gibson doesn't play. What is this running game going to look like to you?
I don't know if it's going to look like much of a running game at all. But really? I don't think it's going to be a bad thing. I think what they're going to do is similar to what they did against the Steelers, where instead of running the ball on 1st and 10, they have a couple of checkdowns. Maybe J.D. McKissick swinging out of the backfield, or he's running a route a couple yards underneath. And I think that's how they're going to move the ball. In short yardage, I think they're going to continue to use Peyton Barber like they have, because when you need 2 yards, if you need 2 yards anywhere, not even football, you call Peyton Barber. He's going to get you that 2 yards. So, but I think that they really need to stay with J.D. McKissick because he's the more explosive back. And he could also run between the tackles too. I mean, I think he's averaging 4.2 yards a carry. So I think you're going to see a lot of J.D. McKissick, not just running the ball, but catching the ball out of the backfield. And I think you're going to see Peyton Barber in that 4-minute drill in those short yardage situations. So I think it's going to be more pass heavy, but it's not going to be those downfield passes. It's going to be like what they would usually call on 1st down.
Well, I think they're really about to see how true Ron Rivera was when he said that he was feeling really good about all the running backs on the rotation. Because if Antonio Gibson doesn't play outside Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate, then you got to rely on McKissick and Barber. And check this out. So Gibson leads the team averaging 4.7 yards per carry, but McKissick is right there at 4.2. So, I mean, he hasn't run the ball as much as he had, just about 250 yards, 231. But still, he's just as effective in a lot of ways. And you see the talent that Gibson has, but McKissick is still there when he gets the opportunity. And like you said, we're over here calling the Peyton Barber hotline whenever we need 3rd and 1 or a 3rd and 2. And he comes out there, he's like, "No worry, man, I got you. I'm gonna put this cape on. I'll get you those 2 yards, and occasionally maybe 4 or 5 or 6 if you need it." But I do think it's going to be a 2-headed rushing attack because you can't replace Gibson completely, but you can substitute him with the 2-headed monster of the McKissick and the Barber.
Definitely. Just one more note in the running backs. If Gibson doesn't play, Washington is probably going to call up Javon Leake from the practice squad, former Maryland running back. Shout out to the Terps. So if Gibson can't go, look for him to be that guy who is activated on game day. Let's go to the third one, and we got to talk about someone everyone's been talking about, Logan Thomas. I mean, 9 receptions, 98 yards, and a touchdown. He had some great blocks downfield. He's really turning into an all-around tight end, leads the team with 5 touchdown catches. What is his ceiling? Like, how good can he be, not just the rest of this year, but going forward?
I think he can be a top 10 tight end this year, honestly. We were talking about it in the pre-show, and I think you said he was about number 15 in the 15th in receiving yards. So I think it's completely realistic for him to go out there and surpass those numbers. I think he's projected to get about 500 or 600 yards receiving and a couple more touchdowns. But I think if he plays the way he did, I mean, there's no telling what he can do. And Ron Rivera said on Tuesday that Pete Haney was circling this guy in the offseason, saying this was a guy that I feel like is on the cusp, but he's not even scratching the surface yet. And I think he's not. I don't even think he's there yet. I think he's in like a little inner layer of the surface of the potential that he can be. And maybe once we get to his core potential, then eventually he can be an awesome tight end.
I completely agree with you. I know a lot of people were talking about, and they still talk about, hey, Logan Thomas he's a good number 2 tight end, but they should go out and get a number 1 tight end, whether that be in free agency in the draft, and then you have really good depth behind him. But you talk about tight ends coach Pete Hainer, who has loved this guy since day one, and Pete Hainer has coached fantastic tight ends. We're talking about Vernon Davis in San Francisco, Delaney Walker at the beginning of his career, Greg Olsen, one of the best tight ends of the past decade or so. He knows tight ends inside and out, and Logan Thomas is still developing. And you saw all those skills against the Steelers. I mean, 9 for 98 and a touchdown. That is high-end tight end 1 production. So I think he can definitely be a tight end 1. I think he can be your future at tight end because they know better than anyone how good he can be and what his potential is, and he just keeps on climbing.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. And I think we've done the polls. Now we need to take a quick break, and we will be talking to 49ers senior team reporter, Keiana Martin. It's going to be great. Stick with us.
At RTS, game day strategy doesn't stop when the whistle blows. RTS delivers smarter, more responsible waste and recycling services. As an official partner of the Washington football team, RTS is connecting the team and FedEx Field with sustainable solutions to care for the community and the environment. RTS, a better waste company. Find out more at rts.com.
Has your business been affected by COVID-19? Have you considered reducing or moving your office space? Then it's time to call Victory Van. We provide the best service and price with flexible options for your company's moving and storage needs. Visit victoryvan.com to get your free moving and storage quote today. For corporate storage and moving, it's always the right move to choose Victory Van. That's victoryvan.com. Victory Van Corporation, delivering excellence for 75 years and a proud partner of the Washington football team.
Finch Services Incorporated, recognized in its industry as a world-class organization, is the exclusive supplier of John Deere golf and sports turf maintenance equipment for the Mid-Atlantic region. In business since 1945, Finch helps golf course and sports turf managers maintain some of the most exclusive playing surfaces in the region. Experience the Finch advantage for yourself. Contact one of our golf and sports turf sales specialists to see how we can help you maintain your field of dreams. Go to finchturf.com for more information.
And with us, as promised, is a 49ers senior team reporter, Keiana Martin. This is her 4th season with the team. Keiana, I know it's early. How are you doing over there?
I'm doing well. I mean, amid all of the chaos that the 49ers are dealing with right now, I feel like 2020 has thrown us so many hurdles, but I mean, what's new? I think we're all kind of getting used to everything that this year has brought, but doing well over here now in Glendale, Arizona.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to start actually, because while we've all been dealing with this pandemic, the 49ers it's a whole nother level because they had to relocate because of the COVID protocols in the county where they play. So just what has that been like for the team having to relocate to Arizona, and just how have they adapted having to be here going forward?
Yeah, just imagine packing up and moving for anybody is probably one of the most daunting tasks, but imagine doing that with 200 players, coaches, and personnel in a matter of a day's notice. And that's essentially what the San Francisco 49ers had to do. But all in all, I think they fell into a very beneficial situation. They moved to the location where the Cardinals host their training camp. And the prime benefit of this is location. Everything is in one central spot. So the guys literally wake up, they head downstairs, there's the meal room, they walk right across, a ballroom has been turned into a weight room, they take a golf cart to the practice field. So that's one of the things the guys say they're really enjoying about this. Now, the team, they're kind of used to being on the road in between their East Coast road trips. They usually stay out east, but only difference about this one is that there's no longer that camaraderie, no team bonding, no hanging out. Due to COVID protocols, the guys are still required to stay away from each other. So they're kind of locked in their rooms. I was talking to Dre Greenlaw last week, and he was saying, well, this is kind of what he does at home anyways. He sits there, opens his playbook, and just cracks it open. Now he's just forced to focus on it even more. So the guys are adjusting well. This is kind of something that's been thrown, a hurdle's been thrown at this team all season long. So this is just another one they're just going to have to overcome.
Well, yeah, speaking of adjustments, I mean, Nick Mullins comes in there for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's thrown for about 2,000, a little under 2,000 yards, and he was in a similar position in 2018 when Jimmy went down again. So how has he developed between 2018 to now?
I think what Kyle Shanahan said, and even Nick Mullen said, they were saying in year 4, like, you better get this offense. You have to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, in 2018, he was just a second-year guy thrown into the fire. But now he's had time to sit behind Jimmy. He's got to see CJ Beathard, another backup play. So now he feels like he has a better understanding of the playbook and what Kyle Shanahan expects for him, also what he expects for himself. But I think one of the benefits that Nick has is he has now a near healthy, we'll use that term lightly, but a near healthy cast of offensive players. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Raheem Mostert, Jordan Reed. Might not necessarily have that George Kittle, but still having some of those key pieces that should really put him in a position to perform better than he did in 2018.
I wanted to touch on the running backs because last year that running game is what propelled the 49ers to the Super Bowl. And it just seems like there's been so many injuries this year, one after the other. But like you said, you have Raheem Mostert back. It seems like they're getting a little healthier. What can we expect from the 49ers running game on Sunday?
I think what's really unique, and it's really sad that we have to say this, but this is only the second or third time this season that the 49ers have all of their running backs available, all of them healthy, not just Raheem Mostert, but you're looking at Jeff Wilson Jr., Jerick McKinnon, Tevin Coleman. So I think the 49ers are still trying to find their footing, I think, to lack of a better term. But the running game, honestly, it kind of circles around Raheem Mostert and what he can do and his availability. Him being out earlier in the year, we saw a dip in production, but with him back in the game, I mean, you can just put on the tape and see the uptick in the offense. And so it's definitely a positive having him back in the fold. And you never know what you're going to get. I think that's the best way to put Kyle Shanahan's offense. He likes to have multiple pieces he can put in different positions. I'll throw Deebo Samuel in there as well. Another guy that could be a running back for a number of teams. But I think Kyle Shanahan likes the pieces he has. So maybe we'll see a little bit of creativity from the head coach on Sunday.
Yeah, another position group on the other side of the ball looks a little different is the defensive line, because DeForest Buckner is gone to the Colts. Solomon Thomas out, Nick Bosa out, but Kerry Hyder Jr. has kind of come on a little bit with 7.5 sacks. I think he's right tied for 11th in sacks overall this year. So what has he been able to do to kind of step up his game with a completely different pass rush in 2020?
What's so funny about Kerry, I had the chance to speak to him, let's say probably near the front end of the season. And when talking to him, I said, did you ever expect to be a starter for the 49ers on the edge? And he said, no, I had no idea. When I came to this team, I knew the talent that they had. So I was just coming in as a depth piece to help out wherever I could. And he's like, now being thrusted into this spot, he's proud. He can't believe that the 49ers trusted in him to kind of take on that role. And he's really flourished. We talked to Robert Saleh a couple of weeks ago, and that's all he did was just praise what Kerry Hyder has been able to do, stepping in for those names you just named, and Nick Bosa and Dee Ford. That's not easy, but having a veteran there has been really helpful for some of these younger guys along the D-line. Example, Javon Kinlaw speaks very highly of Kerry Hyder. So he's been a very welcomed asset to the 49ers D-line and their depth.
With all the injuries on this team, I feel like it's tough to gauge, where they are strong, where they're weak. So, I mean, from your vantage point, what are the strengths of this team as of now? And where do they still need to improve with a couple games to play?
Oh, it's a really good question. I would say one of their strengths, it's going to start off with the coaching. That's Kyle Shanahan and what he can do. We like to call it his wizardry, being able to draw plays, and especially looking at the injuries that the 49ers have had, but being able to use some of these pieces to step up and still have the success that they're having. Albeit, not looking at some of these recent losses, but even in the middle of the season, being without your quarterback, being without your two top wide receivers, your top running back. So I think that's one of the strengths. But if I had to look at a weakness, I would probably say it might be just getting the most out of your offensive pieces. We talk about everything that the 49ers do have, but I think the 49ers want to see that production on a consistent basis. I mean, we see some weeks where it looks really strong and it looks really promising, and then maybe they take a step back. So I would say that could be maybe one of the negatives. And I think they're still finding their identity. This is definitely a different year for this 49ers team. So I would say identity is a big weakness for this team.
So, Keiana, we really appreciate you coming on. But before you go, this game is really important to both teams. They're both in playoff contention as of now. So, what has to go right? What are a couple of keys to this game heading into Sunday?
Oh, a big one. It's the turnover battle. 49ers have given away the ball more than 2 times in the last 6 contests. Kyle Shanahan is not happy with that stat whatsoever. 49ers need to make sure they're taking care of the ball going into Sunday. And also, Kyle Shanahan says when you run the ball at least 30 times, that's when he feels like it's a successful game for him. So getting this ground game going will be key, especially looking at Washington's defense. I know there's some playmakers over there on the other side of the ball. So I'm sure the 49ers, that will be a focal point for them.
For sure. Well, Keiana, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Before we let you go, where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, it's my name, Keiana Martin TV, and that's on Twitter and Instagram and probably just about every other thing out there.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I'll be honest, when the schedule first came out, I think I talked to Zach and we were really hyped to go out to San Francisco. We're like, oh, this is going to be great. First West Coast trip. So I'm bummed about that, but safety measures, it's been a crazy year. So hopefully some point soon we'll be able to make our way out there and talk football in person.
Yeah, I can't wait and can't wait to meet you guys in person. And also, I'll just throw a little note. A lot of the 49ers faithful are very excited to see Alex Smith, knowing his history and his career, especially being with the 49ers. So a lot of fans will be torn in this game, but as always, we are always rooting for Alex.
Definitely. Yeah, well, it should be a really good one on Sunday. Hope you enjoy the game, and thanks so much for talking with us.
Likewise. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks.
Couchgating, presented by the DC Lottery. Couchgating is the new tailgating. Enter to win a chance at a WFT DC Lottery fan pack. Celebrate your Couchgate by sharing a photo using hashtag DCL to have your Couchgating photo featured on the Couchgating Wall of Fame. Please post your photos on social media using the tags @WashingtonFootball, @DC Lottery, and the hashtag CouchGatingDCL for consideration. Please note that not all photos will be accommodated on the Couchgating Wall of Fame, and all Couchgating photos are posted on the sole discretion of the Washington football team.
It's all-wheel drive season, and your local Honda dealers are bringing the best deals of the year. It's clearance pricing during the Happy Honda Day sales event. Dash through the snow in a rugged and adventurous Honda. Check out our entire all-wheel drive truck and SUV lineup. CRV, HRV, Ridgeline, Pilot, Passport, with features like Honda Sensing, Magic Folding Seats, and 3 different driving modes. Clearance pricing is here, but it won't last long. Don't miss clearance pricing at Happy Honda Days sales event, now at your local Honda dealer.
Just wanted to thank Keiana Martin for coming on the show and giving us everything we need to know about the San Francisco 49ers ahead of Sunday's matchup. But before we get out of here, we got some segments. We have Studs and Duds. We have, obviously, who we got. We're going to start with Studs and Duds. We got Stevie Stats, as we like to say, who's got 3 more players, coaches, position groups that she's going to give us, and we're going to decide, are they a stud or are they a dud? So, Stevie, who do we have this week?
All right. Also, thank you for the nickname, Stevie Stats. I don't know how long it'll last, but let's roll with
we're
it.
going to keep it going, so get used to it, Stevie.
That's what we do on this podcast. We just beat stuff into the ground. So,
True.
Here we go.
Okay. So my first one is going to be running back Peyton Barber.
Ooh.
I kind of, I was thinking about this yesterday, and I'm like, Stevie going to pick for Studs and Duds? And I was like, Peyton Barber will be a good one. So I'm going to let Zach go first.
Okay, all right. So I think Peyton Barber is a stud. I'm just going to go ahead and say he's a short yardage stud. Check this out. He only has 196 yards, but the significance of those 196 yards is very important. I mean, he practically put the game away against the Eagles in week 1. And on top of that, he came in for an injured Gibson and still delivered some really key critical short down yards. So I think he's a stud, not just because of like the potential that he has, but I think he can give us a little more. But even though the numbers don't match up, his production, his hard work, his ethic is stud worthy. So I'm saying stud.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Context is key in this situation because if you just look at the stats, you're going to assume he's a dud because his yards per carry is so low. But it's when they're using him, like you said, short yardage situations, when they have the lead and they're in the 4-minute drill trying to drain some clock. In those situations, teams know that they're going to run the ball. When Peyton Barber's in there, they know he's going to run the ball. There's no surprise.
Yeah.
So those are hard yards. And Scott Turner talked about that. And that's why he even mentioned that he's seen people knocking him for his yards per carry. But in terms of what they need him to do, he's been exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's produced as you need him to in that role. So I totally agree with you. I think Peyton Barber is a stud. And then, I mean, you saw against the Cowboys, maybe he breaks off a couple bigger runs. So you've seen it. So stud for Peyton Barber.
Awesome. All right. Well, it's actually getting really hard to think of studs and duds, these players or position groups, whatever. But our second one is going to be offensive line coach John Masco.
Ooh, John Matsko he's a clear stud. Clear
Yes.
stud. I mean, what he's been able to do with this offensive line, there's been so many injuries. You've had a bunch of different line combinations. You've had performances that maybe haven't been up to standards, and then they'd have to switch guys around. And they've still been able to protect the quarterback, especially lately. And I think, and a lot of coaches, they've credited John Matsko, and so has like Sheriff and Morgan Moses. They're like, how have you guys been able to stay at this level of play with all these different combinations? And there's one answer. It's John Matsko. I mean, he's been doing it for so long. He's coached so many different offensive lines. He's seen everything. And Washington is really benefiting from that, because in a regular year, that could have really hurt the team, especially with a quarterback who's not that mobile in Alex Smith. But they've not only been competent, they've been excelling recently. And I think that a lot of that goes back to John Matsko.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to call anyone who's coached Hall of Famers to be a dud. I mean, he's been coaching pretty much twice as long as I've been alive, and he's been a top-notch guy for the big skill people pretty much since he's done it. And
the big skill people.
That's what they're called. Hey, look, at the former offensive line, I can tell you, we don't call it the big boy. We call it the big skill. So get used to it. But he's definitely a stud, because I mean, you bring it up. You know, all the offensive line combinations. He said that, look, if we're gonna be doing this, if I'm gonna be here, we need to learn how to play all 5 positions. And that was tested when Morgan Moses went from right to left mid-game, and he went and had one of his best running block grades according to Pro Football Focus in his career. And then he comes back on the right side, does just as well. And the sacks are still an issue, of course, but I think they've gotten better in the past few weeks. It's not like they're getting the constant pressure that they got earlier, and they're finally starting to understand the techniques and the roles that Matsko has given them. So I think it's a stud. And then if he's growing, I think it's a super stud for John Matsko.
Whoa, super stud.
That's right.
High praise.
Okay.
All right, so then the last one, I think I saved the best for last. So let's go with the wide receivers as a group all together.
Okay, so
yes,
I'll go with studs, straight studs all across the board, because they started off as duds until Terry McLaurin. They got his presence around him, and they started seeing how he does things. And it's a guy who works hard. He does everything right, and he does everything the coach is asked to. He buys into the coach's message. And I think that has had an effect on the entire receiving group, from Isaiah Wright to Dontrell Inman, who is more experienced than him, and he's the leader to that veteran. And I think that Terry is bringing this group along, not just with his production, but also with his ability to lead and just be that constant presence in that wide receiver group. So I'm going to go with stud. I think this group can really grow even more, honestly.
I agree. I think they can grow, and they've done some good things. But overall, I'm going with dud. If you look at the statistics, Terry McLaurin, clearly a stud, obviously. Next 2 highest receivers are, or I guess pass catchers, Logan Thomas and J.D. McKissick. And then you have Cam Sims, who's 4th, and Antonio Gibson, who's 5th. And Sims has only really been playing since that second Giants game. He hasn't even been in there for that long. So I think overall, if you take the whole season, they just haven't produced enough. You thought that Steven Sims was going to be the number 2 receiver, and he has less than 200 yards receiving. Isaiah Wright hasn't done much either. He's had a couple of flashes. Dontrell Inman has really done nothing aside from the Cleveland game. So as a whole, and I think it's a dud. I think they're not like a clear dud. They're more on like that line. And I think that with some more good games from Cam Sims, because if they have two like legit receivers, then I call them a stud based on what they had going into the year. But I just think overall they haven't been what we thought they were going to be, which would be a little better than where they are now. Stevie, what do you think?
I was going to say dud, to be honest, just because Terry McLaurin is the only one who, in my opinion, has really excelled. So, as you mentioned, behind him was Logan Thomas and J.D. McKissick, who aren't receivers. So,
exactly.
I say a dud with the potential of being super stud.
Super stud.
Whoa.
Whoa.
But also, because think about it too, the loss of Kelvin Harmon.
That's
really
true.
hurt. Now that we think about it, that really hurt us. So.
Did, yeah.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. Yeah, we forget about Kelvin Harmon.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right, that was Studs and Duds. Stevie, really appreciate it. Looking forward to who we got next week. But who we got now, the segment that everyone's been clamoring for. I don't have any Game of Thrones spoilers, so you can keep listening without getting all mad at this podcast or getting mad at Zach. But I know people have been talking about it. They've been talking about it all year long. And we're going to jump right in. I think we got some really good ones this week. And we're going to start with Logan Thomas because he deserves all the praise he's been getting, all the recognition he's been getting. And we're going to put him up against a guy that Washington fans know pretty well, former tight end Jordan Reed, who's now on the 49ers. So we're going to do something different this week. We're going to do fantasy points, more fantasy points, Logan Thomas or Jordan Reed. So it's 1 point per reception, 1 point for every 10 yards receiving, and 6 points for a touchdown. So, Zach, who's going to have more fantasy points? Who we got?
Well, I'm going to go with Logan Thomas, and it's not even because of a recency bias. It's because Logan has just been better, and he's been more available, honestly. And I know Jordan Reed has 200 receiving yards. I think he has 3 touchdowns. But Logan Thomas leads the team with 5 receiving touchdowns, and he has 426 yards, 23rd tight end in franchise history to surpass 400 yards in 12 games. So, and plus, if he keeps riding this high, I think he'll have an even better game. I believe he had about 27 points. So I had him on my fantasy roster, by the way. So you already know where I was going to go with that. So I'm sticking with Logan Thomas, sticking with what I know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a reason to say Jordan Reed, and I just really can't think of one. Logan Thomas is just so much more entrenched into this offense and what they're trying to do. And if the offense is going to be productive, he's going to have to be productive. And like you said, I mean, he had 9 for 98. That is a huge game last week, not only stats-wise, but fantasy production-wise. So I'm going to go with Logan Thomas as well. Second one, we have quarterback completion percentage. So they're both completing about 2/3 of their passes.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think is going to have a better completion percentage, Nick Mullins or Alex Smith?
Well, Nick Mullins has 67.3, and Alex Smith has 68.7. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 68.7. And check this out, though. Second highest completion percentage of Alex Smith's career so far, 68.7%. So I'm going to go with Alex because I think he's playing well. Even when he doesn't throw for over 200 yards, he still is accurate. So I'm going to go with Alex Smith here just because I think he's playing at a peak level for him right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Alex Smith too. And I think some of that has to do with what they're going to try to do if Antonio Gibson can't play. We talked about this earlier. There's going to be more dump offs to J.D. McKissick, and they're going to try to dink and dunk their way down the field that way because the running game isn't going to be nearly as good as it was with Gibson in there. So I think that's going to lead to a lot of completions, similar to what Alex Smith had in the second half against the Giants and against the Lions. So I'm going to go with Alex Smith. And I know we're two of the same right now, but that's just how I feel. So number 3, maybe we can switch it up on this one. More pass breakups. So Washington coming into the Pittsburgh game had 32 pass breakups. They had 8 against the Steelers. And I think, was it half of those that were from the defensive linemen?
Yep, and 3 of them was for Montez Sweat.
Exactly. So they're coming off a huge game, but the 49ers, I think they have 48 pass breakups this year.
They
So they've been better overall, but Washington is coming on strong. So who do you think is going to have more pass breakups in this game, San Fran or Washington?
I think it's going to be Washington just because they have the Montez Sweat X factor here. And plus Deron Payne. Quick little stat about Deron Payne. I think that, people don't think that he's like an underrated pass deflector. I think going into the season, he had more pass deflections than I think it was Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and a couple of other defensive linemen combined on the team.
Wow.
I know, exactly. So I think that those two guys are going to be the true factor here. I think they're going to harass Nick Mullins the same way that they got to Ben Roethlisberger a couple of times. So I'm gonna go with Washington, straight Washington all the way for me.
All right, so finally, we're going to be different here. I'm going to go with San Francisco, and only because I think Washington is going to get to Nick Mullins. So those would be the sacks that didn't happen and turned into pass breakups pass batted down against the Steelers are going to turn into sacks.
True.
And so I think they're going to have 4 or 5 sacks, and the pass breakups are going to come from the secondary, Ronald Darby, Kendall Fuller. So give me San Francisco, but the reason for it is because Washington's going to have success bringing down their opposing quarterback.
Okay, that's fair.
We got one different.
Yeah, there we go. We'll
right.
see what we can get with that.
So that's all I got. Zach, I know you might have something for the people before we head out of here, so I'm going to leave it to you.
It is time for the Go to the Plugs to come back, and it is me. This is the official podcast of the Washington football team. You can check us out wherever you find your podcast: Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, Tune In. You can check us out on YouTube for the preview shows. You can check us on the website and on the app if you want to listen to us. Check us out on the Twitters at Kyle F. Stackpole, at Zach D. Selby. And behind the screens, we have Stevie Katz with Katz_Stevie. Stevie gets a part of the plugs now. And you can check all of our wonderful work at WashingtonFootball.com, including Logan Campbell's our team reporter. And check out the Wow Podcast, all the unfiltered stuff that we do on YouTube. And I think that's it. I think I've finished up the plugs. I've now satisfied my needs, my quota for the day.
Oh, I got one more thing though.
What you got?
So I just wanted to thank the fans. So we've been pulling the numbers from all the different podcast streaming services. We've been looking on YouTube, and just like the Washington football team, we seem to be trending upward. It seems like every episode we're getting some more listens, we're getting some more comments, we're getting more likes on YouTube, more views. So we just really appreciate you guys. We've loved doing this. I'm so glad we've been able to do it twice a week and have built that consistency up. And just keep listening. And if you like us, please subscribe, rate, comment. Let us know if you want us. If we need to do something better, we'll do it. If Zach needs to tone down the plugs, he'll do it. If he needs to go up more, he's ready.
That's right.
So, exactly. So I mean, we love you guys. We're trying to give you the best content all the time.
Every time.
There you go,
Stevie.
So yeah, just wanted to say that because you guys are what allows us to keep this going, because we just want to provide as much content and good information for you. So thanks for listening, and we will talk to you after the 49ers game. For Kyle Stackpole, Zach Selby, Stevie Katz, this has been The Rundown.
For more than 100 years, Chesapeake Employers Insurance has been helping Maryland businesses keep their workers safe. With competitive pricing and an AM Best A- financial strength rating, it's no surprise that Chesapeake Employers is Maryland's largest writer of workers' comp insurance.
At the end of every workday, someone's waiting for your safe return.
Connect with your agent or visit CEIWC.com.
Locally owned Novak is energizing the community in powerful ways. From sponsoring meals for first responders and medical professionals to donating generously to area food banks, Novak knows we're in this together. Novak and customers are funding crisis energy assistance by having their bills rounded up each month. Novak and employees are supporting local charities through Novak Helps. That's the power of working together. That's Novak.
And now, time for a Happy Honda Days clearance highlight. The season had grown cold, and the roads were covered in ice. Looking to capitalize on clearance pricing, Amy went down to her local Honda dealer and test drove the entire all-wheel drive SUV lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Passport, and more. In the end, Amy got a clearance deal on a new Pilot equipped with 3 different driving modes. Boom, baby, boom.
Don't miss clearance pricing at the Happy Honda Days sales event, now at your local Honda dealer.
Fred, this was so nice of us to share Maryland Lottery scratch-offs with our neighbors. Happy holidays, Selena.
What's this? Scratch-offs. Cool, thanks.
Your tuba is a nice touch, Fred. Well, 5 more neighbors to visit. What's wrong? Your lips are frozen to the tuba?
This year, multiply the cheer. Give holiday multiplier scratch-offs from the Maryland Lottery. Top prize $100,000. Please play safely and responsibly.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports-watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.